We're going to look at the two political parties that we have here in the United States. We're going to look at some of the main issues that people disagree on, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. So Republicans, once again, are represented by the color red. Um, if you hear them talk about the right, the Republicans are on the right in the political spectrum. The elephant is the symbol. When you see that, you should know that they're talking about Republicans. And then you'll hear them talk about the GOP a lot. And the GOP stands for Grand Old Party. When they talk about GOP, they're talking about the Republicans. And I think it's interesting. I read a news article that a major newspaper um, stopped using the acronym GOP because a lot of people don't know what it means. So anytime you see GOP, you should know that stands for the Grand Old Party, which is the Republican Party. I'm going to go through real quick, and I'm going to make some very general statements on these particular issues. A lot of people don't take the time to actually research the candidates that are running, but if you know how you stand on these issues, then you can align yourself with a party. And so um, I'll just leave it at that. Gun control. Republicans typically are pro-gun, and they all fall on a spectrum on how much gun control they're willing to accept. But there are a lot of Republicans out there that don't want to see the government get involved in taking away our guns. They think guns are protected by the Second Amendment, and that law-abiding citizens carry guns, and that the government should leave the guns alone. We'll just leave it at that. Abortion. Republicans tend to be pro-life. Once again, there is a spectrum. You have some who think that abortion should be outlawed under any circumstance. You have some that are pro-life but say that they would be willing to accept if the mother's life is in jeopardy or for rape or incest. But for the most part, Republicans tend to be pro-life. Same-sex marriage. Republicans tend to be against same-sex marriage. They think marriage should be between a man and a woman. Size of the national government, and this goes back all the way to the ratification of the Constitution and where should the power lie. Republicans tend to think that the national government should stay very small and that the power should lie with the states. The states should govern themselves, and we only need the national government for a very few things. Taxes and spending. The government or Republicans think that we should have lower taxes, and they think that if we allow the states to take care of things, we don't have to spend so much money, so then we don't have to tax our people as much. The legalization of marijuana, this one's kind of interesting because this, once again, has a spectrum. But I would say that most Republicans typically would be against the legalization of marijuana. They would like to see that stay outlawed. Prayer in school, Republicans tend to be in support of prayer in school. Immigration, and when I say immigration, we're going to leave that and focus on, I wish I would have written illegal immigration, because Republicans are not against immigration, but they are very much in favor of stiff penalties for illegal immigrants, jail, and deportation. And then the death penalty, they support the death penalty. And once again, these are very broad generalizations about the Republican Party. The Democratic Party, once again, when you hear them talk about the left, when you see the donkey or when you see the color blue, when they're talking about parties, those are all affiliated with the Democratic Party. Gun control, they tend to be supporters of gun control, and they would like to see more restrictions. And once again, you have a spectrum because you have some Democrats who don't support this, and you have them who just want some common sense laws about gun issues, not taking guns completely away. Abortion, they tend to be more pro-choice. And a lot of people mistake pro-choice with supporting abortion. You can be against abortion and still be pro-choice. That just means you think it should be left up to the woman and her doctor. Same-sex marriage, Democrats tend to favor same-sex marriage. The size of the national government, Democrats tend to think that the national government should be more involved, that they should attempt to solve a lot of the issues that we have. taxes and spending because they think that it's okay to have more programs at the national level. Obviously, we need to tax more, and it's going to require more spending to do these things. Democrats would tend to support the legalization of marijuana. They would also tend to be against prayer in school. Um, and you can research the various reasons for all of these. So these are no judgments in any of these. They tend to embrace immigration and that we need to have a pathway to citizenship for those the illegal immigrants who are here. Some of them would support an open border and would say that the United States was built on immigrants. And then the death penalty, they typically are against the death penalty. Third parties in the United States, here are just a few. I mean, you can Google a list of political parties in the United States. Third parties in the U.S., it's a political party other than the Democrats and the Republicans. And so almost every political party, even the third parties, have someone that they will pick as a nominee for president. Obviously, you never see them on the ballot. But a couple of them are getting pretty big, and they actually have had candidates that are on the ballot. The Green Party has had a candidate for president that has been on ballots in many of the states. Libertarian is becoming a more popular party, and they're all about the national government just staying out of anything. Leave it up to the states. The national government shouldn't get involved in anything. So you can research more about that. But yeah, so there's a marijuana party, and they're what's called a single issue political party, because really the only issue they're concerned about is getting marijuana legalized. So that's kind of interesting. Winner-take-all system, and this is why the two-party system continues and it perpetuates. It continues on. Why are these our only two choices? We want more choices. We want more choices. But the way our elections are set up is the winner of the election, and you only have to win by one vote. And I'm talking about the presidency right now. You get all that state's votes, and so if you don't come in first, you don't get anything. There's no splitting up and giving anything to the second place winner. The winner takes all the in the election, and we'll talk about this later specifically, but gets all the electoral votes. And so if you don't vote for a Republican or Democrat, most people say that their vote is wasted, and that's extremely important. Nobody wants to waste their vote. So when we're talking about a presidential election, if you're not voting for the Republican or the Democrat, you're wasting your vote. And I know right now we have an election at the Senate level where you have a Democrat, a Republican, and you have a Libertarian. And a lot of people are looking at this Libertarian going, man, I really want to vote for her, or, we have another choice, but, what if nobody else does? And then I'm throwing my vote away. So people really, really get hung up on this idea of I can't vote for a third party because they have no chance of winning. And if everyone stopped thinking that way, but once again, there's no prize for second place. So you got to be careful. I want you to understand the winner takes all. So here in the elections, the person who comes in first wins, second and third. There's nothing to split between the two of them. People don't want to waste their vote, and they talk about, if I vote for a third party, unless I can get a bunch of people doing it, it's not going to be effective, and I will have wasted my vote. I disagree with that. I think that the more people who vote for a third party, even if they don't win, the two main parties are going to see that the people are interested in change and want something different, and they will have to embrace some of the principles and some of the philosophies that are within that third party. So even if you're not voting for a third party, or even if you don't agree or want to vote for one of the main two parties and there's a third party option that you are interested in, check them out, and do not feel like you have ever wasted your vote. All that is important is that you actually do vote. Something that I want to add to the very end of this are a couple terms that I should have said during when I was talking about Democrats and Republicans. There are two terms, partisan and bipartisan. Partisanship is when your members vote. I lost my train of thought. So hang on just a second. All right. So bipartisan is when the two parties work together. So usually there are some issues that both parties can agree on, and you're going to see them work in what's called a bipartisan way. B-I, two. It's like a bicameral legislature, two-house legislature. So bipartisanship is when the two political parties work together on a certain issue. Partisan is when they don't work together, when they clearly are voting on party lines. And we saw that in this last vote on the Supreme Court nominee, Judge, now Justice Kavanaugh. The Republicans voted one way, the Democrats all voted, except for one, voted another way. That was a very partisan issue. They could not come together. They fought bitterly. And what we're seeing more and more these days is more partisanship and not very much bipartisanship. There is no cooperation. There is no sense that we need to accommodate the other side. Compromise. Compromise is huge, huge, huge in trying to work and get things accomplished, and they're just not willing to compromise. There's no bipartisanship anymore. It's all very partisan, so make sure that you know what those two terms mean.